guys. So recently I had a couple of people reach out to me and tell me that they think I should start some type of blog or inspirational posting. And I think I'm at a point now where I am finally ready to share that experience as well as the wisdom that I've gained from like this last year or even 2 months really. So when 2020 began, I was at probably my hardest point of struggle with my mental illness. I could not hold a normal job sufficiently. It didn't matter what work field it was in. And I've never been a person to struggle with being able to hold a job, showing up, to just simple tasks for your job duties. It really started to affect me in a way that I became a shell of myself. I became very numb. I couldn't leave the house any longer. I would dissociate while driving, to a point that I felt very unsafe being behind the wheel, whether someone was in the car with me or not. So I couldn't even drive myself to work when I was able to make it. I'd isolated myself extremely. And a lot of this had already began before 2020 started. But once COVID started, I realized, I guess, I was just screwed. At the time, I still was working and doing my best to show up, but calling off for several shifts, not being the person that I knew I was capable of being, not being the worker that I knew I was capable of being, because I've always prided myself on my sense of work ethic and, my ability to adapt to things, even in high stress situations, ironically enough. But I decided I had to do something for myself. I didn't want to feel numb anymore. I just wanted to feel in general. And I had been medicated for probably at least a year at that point, and on the same type of medication. So it had been like a stable regimen. I hadn't been switching meds or upping dosage of anything. That's one thing I can say my doctor was great about, was never pursuing multiple medications or anything at one time. It was always, let's start one or raise the dosage, see how it affects you, we'll go from there. And she was as helpful as she could be for a Western medicine doctor. With that being said, I have not had suicidal ideation since I was probably 17 years old. Just turned 20 in November. So it was not only a humbling experience for me, but it was like, why am I feeling these same feelings again? And the answers that everyone was giving me truly just wasn't enough for me. So I had already started my spiritual journey, but not truly pursued it. And I would say I was in like the first stage of spiritual awakening, kind of like stepping on the gas and then on the brakes. I really wasn't ready to pursue that shadow work, and I struggled. I really did become a shell of myself, and because I wasn't able to work anymore, I would say it was February, late February, early March, right before the shutdown happened in Ohio. I realized I couldn't hold a normal job anymore, and I'm like, I don't want to be someone who lives off disability benefits. I don't want to be someone who is trapped in my home, a place that's supposed to be my sanctuary, as someone who's very empathic and a highly sensitive person. It was almost as if my sanctuary had become my fortress. It was my prison. I had trapped myself in my mental prison, and it physically started to manifest itself. I became very sick constantly. It was like I would vomit at least once a day, not forcing myself to. My stomach was truly just that screwed up from my nerves and my anxiety and all the medications I was on. So back to work in February/March. I ended up saying I need to take a 2-week break. I can't do work right now. I hope that you guys understand. You know how much I love this company and working for them. They were very understanding. I had already looked into like bleach dyes and like tie-dyeing, and had some of the supplies because my grandma was a very artistic person, and she has always pushed me to show my creativity as well. And so she helped me get some more supplies. I started making my first couple of bleach dye shirts, and it started out with friends and family being my big supporters. Shout out to Gabe Hickman for sure, because he posted my information for kundalinikreationsbykenz everywhere. Shout out to Anna Burke over at Wild Hair Dreadlocks. She is still my biggest customer to date. She owns her own dreadlock company in Yellow Springs, Ohio, and she has me do custom work for her for clothing, and that was the big determining factor on, okay, life is telling me I have to continue doing this, so I can't give up. I got her order for her shop, and that's when I decided to create my Shopify account. I would say this is maybe March or April now at this point, and the shutdown had already started, and I realized I wasn't being affected by the shutdown like everyone else was. I was already dealing with agoraphobia and isolation and depression and anxiety and social anxiety. So everything that was happening in the world, it didn't have the same effect on me as people who maybe aren't as highly sensitive or haven't tapped into those empathic abilities like I had, or had accidentally even stumbled upon, because I've been emotional and sensitive from ever since I can remember. But it was a very humbling experience. The moment that I would want to give up, because financially it seemed like it just wasn't going to happen. Life would literally make it so that somehow, some way, we would have enough money to be able to buy the next bottle of bleach or the next size t-shirt we needed. Life told me I could not give up. And when I continued to pursue my path and speak my truth, life continued to reward me. And it just goes to show you 100% have to believe in something, whether it's a higher power, yourself, a cause, the dreams that you have in life. You have to have faith in something, because the more that you have faith in it, the more you're going to talk about the things you want. You're going to think about them. You will speak those things into reality. You will manifest them. The saying, be careful what you wish for, doesn't exist for no reason. I mean, there truly is no such thing as coincidence. And I feel like this year alone, in terms of my experience, is definitely proof for that. Even after April, we'll say maybe this summer, I had come to a point where I was not leaving my house at all. We had friends invite us over for parties, and I would have such severe panic attacks trying to just get in the car, knowing I had to go somewhere else, that it was really eating me alive. I struggle with a huge guilt complex, and so knowing what was best for me, but also wanting to do what I felt was best for other people, it really, really made that guilt complex fester, and I realized I had to do a lot of energy purging in my life. That was probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever made in my life, was to say, you might be my blood, you might be my family, my relative, you might be my best friend, you might have been something to me that I couldn't picture without, or in this life, I couldn't picture living without. And I realized that if all of those people, all of those things aren't putting me first, so to speak, and their selfishness and their own needs trumped my happiness, that it was no longer important for me to keep those people or those things in my life. I had no obligation to anyone or anything else's happiness. And the moment that I truly started to practice this and to find my own inner peace and happiness, I was able to realize that people are not going to be willing to support you when you succeed, because everything is about expectations in this world. And if you can diminish your expectations so that all you do is what makes you happy, whether that be doing something for someone else, for yourself, anything, you have no expectations of yourself, of circumstances and how they should play out, of other people and how they should react, or maybe the things that they should do for you. Because the moment that you start to have unrealistic expectations, that's when you say, well, I had this person's back and they didn't have my back. How fair is that? But truly, you have no idea what that person is going through in that moment. You don't know why that person isn't coming to visit you. You don't know why they didn't get you a gift for Christmas. But if you take yourself out of that equation, it makes it a lot easier to understand why life works the way that it does. And once I truly started to practice these things, put myself first, I realized not only am I very important because I'm the only me there is, just like you are the only you there is, you might as well be the youest you. And if you know me, you know I say that a lot, because there really is only one you in this whole entire universe that will ever exist. So no one else can do it better than you. No one else knows how to be you, only you. And if you don't even know how to do those things, it's time to truly take a step back from reality, from what society has taught you how to be or how to act or function, and find what makes you, you. I've never, ever experienced so much adversity from especially family and very dear friends until I had begun my pursuit of my own business and my own inner growth and my spiritual growth, so that I could then share my peace, my love, my healing outwardly. And I think that showed me again that I'm doing exactly what I should be, and life continues to fill me up with this fuel of pride and perseverance and inner strength that literally comes from a divine source, because I know myself, I would have given up years ago, especially before I had even begun a spiritual journey of growth. And I had really started tapping into that shadow work and that spiritual awakening for myself. But I think that it is so important for people to hear my story, even in terms of just this short, crazy year, because I now still have my business, kundalinikreationsbykenz. We've got our own Instagram, Facebook page. We actually have over 600 followers on Facebook, which is insane to me. We have our own Facebook crew now called Kundalini Crew. We make hat pins. We started collabing with other artists who already have, their name out there. We've made so many connections and so many friends. And it has instilled in me that I'm doing exactly what I should be. I'm a lover, I'm a healer, and I'm a giver. And so I decided that my motto for my business would be cultivating positivity through business. Because every package I send out, I try to draw on, I try to put glitter in or some kind of small little gift, because that's what I want to do. I don't expect anything in return. I do that because that's what I'm called to do. That's what I want to do for someone else. So what if somebody reaches out and says, dude, thank you so much, that was the coolest package ever, or is like, posts a photo, or reaches out to us, or even their friends and family and says, hey, look at this. I don't do that with the expectation of any of those things happening. I just do it to know that I set that goodness in motion. I pushed it forward. I sent that to someone else. I planted that seed. And that's all my job is. My job isn't to water anyone else's garden, because you can't give from an empty cup. All you can do is plant that seed. And you have to be careful where you plant those seeds too, because you could sit there and you could water a plant, and what if it's a cactus? It doesn't need that water. It really doesn't even need that attention. It just needs to be able to do its own thing. Say that you planted a seed and it's in a spot where there's absolutely no way it will grow, and somehow it does. You would have given up on that thing, but it wasn't your choice. It was only your job to plant the seed. And that's why when I started my own designs for the business, I started a lot of positive affirmations. Think for yourself, plant your seed, be yourself, things to truly make you think outside of the box, because we were taught to think inside of this box. We were taught that there is a box in general. And because society has taught us we need to be these perfect cookie cutter people that fit into these labels and, are basically all the same, that's not who we are. We are all individuals for a reason. So to expect, myself to agree with you 100% of the time is silly. And also, again, back to expectations, a very unrealistic expectation. If we were going to agree on everything, I'd be you and you'd be me, and that would defeat the purpose. But I truly just want this video to be, I guess, a beginning explanation of how I've come to where I am now, how you should continue to believe in yourself, because even at life's lowest moments, if you truly, truly believe in that dream, life will find a way for everything else. I wouldn't have a business that is successful throughout this year. I would not have ever even dreamed that I could start my own business, which has been my dream for as long as I can remember. And now to be selling my artwork, I remember being like a photographer in like 6th grade and doing an art show and selling pieces. Like, that was it. That's all I thought that I would end up doing. And now here I am. I'm like, I made it. This is so surreal. Now, granted, I'm not like making millions. Sometimes we barely pay the bills. But I am doing what makes me happy. I am not working to build someone else's dream anymore. I'm working for myself. And it's a lot easier to work for yourself when you're working on yourself too. I know for a fact that if I had not experienced the unconditional love throughout my life from strangers, family members, down-ass homies, and all the like, I would have given up on myself. So faith truly, truly is important. And you have to keep that dream alive, because when you start to truly pursue that, life will make everything else possible. I hope that I can be a shining example of that, and I hope to be able to continue to share with you my progress and my growth. I definitely did not mean for this video to be this long, but I do plan to share some tips and strategies and coping mechanisms that I've learned, and a lot of books that I think that you should read if you're a reader, and if shadow work is something you're willing to start on, and a spiritual awakening is calling you. So I just wanted to say that I love you guys so much. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for love, and you just keep doing you, because eventually you're gonna make it. And if anybody doesn't believe so, it's because they gave up on their own dreams.